Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. Obviously, Europe is waiting for the revolution. Germany Chancellor candidate and AfD party leader Alice Weidel promises to restart the Nord Stream gas pipeline connected Russia to Germany if elected. I would like to remind you that during the previous several weeks, the businessman from the United States of America, Elon Musk, supported the party, the AfD party, and he continued doing this. So it's very interesting what is going to happen. But I talked with some representative from Germany, and according to them, if AfD wins, most of the parties of Germany will unite together with the purpose to be like opposition to this party, and they will never allow the AfD to become in charge of Germany. So let's wait and see what is going to be next. But as we discussed several weeks ago, the battle for Germany has begun, and if the United States of America and Russia are able to win the battle of Germany, then most likely the entire world, the situation in the entire world would be changed significantly. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in Ukraine. According to information we have, the Russians began offensive operation in the direction of the settlement of Belovody, and this is already not the Sumy direction and not the Kursk area. This is the Sumy region. So the Ukrainian sources published the video. The units of the 92nd Mechanized Brigade of the Armored Forces of Ukraine published the video of how they were bombing and attacking the concentration of Russian forces on the Ukrainian side of the border. This is very important because the Russians took under control these three lines, and they were planning or preparing themselves before further offensive operation in the direction of Zhuravka. And if the Russians are able to take the village of Zhuravka and the village of Belovody, this is going to be the beginning of the offensive operation in the direction of the settlement of Yunakievka. And with the fall of Yunakievka, the Ukrainians would be caught in colder on the territory of the Sumy direction. So very important video. Now it's very important to understand whether it's just a small action from the Russian side to improve their positions, or this is the beginning of the offensive operation. As for the Sumy direction itself, according to different mappers, the Russians during the previous 24 hours managed to improve their positions and to take under control the village of Kositsa. The Russians show us a very big and very fast dynamic in this area. Almost every single day we are adjusting the map in Russian favor. Now let's move further. As for the Kharkiv direction, as for the northern Kupiansk, central Kupiansk, and the southern Kupiansk direction, we haven't received anything special during the previous 24 hours. Now let's discuss the situation in the Chasiv Yar direction, and as you can see, according to the geolocations, there are very heavy clashes in this area. The Russians have started the final assault operation with the purpose to defeat the Ukrainians completely and to take under control the central and the northern part of the city of Chasiv Yar. But before this, another important update came to us from the village of Velyka. According to pro-Ukrainian sources and according to neutral mappers, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to take under control the village of Vasilivka. This was unexpected, telling the truth, but now we see that the Russians managed to improve their position significantly, and this is probably the beginning of the Russian offensive operation in the direction of Slavyansk, maybe, or the Russian offensive operation with the purpose to outflank the Ukrainian positions on the territory of Siversk itself. So let's wait and see. We still don't have enough of information to make conclusions. Maybe this is just an attempt from the Russian side to improve their positions and to take under control this forest that is under responsibilities of the 56th Motor Rifle Brigade of the Armored Forces of Ukraine. Very difficult to understand. The most important is that the village was captured. The next days will show us what were the exact plans of the Russian forces. As for the city of Chasiv Yar, once again, a lot of geolocations, as you can see, and we have adjusted the map on the territory of the industrial zone. In this video we will not watch, we can see the Russian soldiers that were moving through these constructions. A lot of casualties among the Ukrainian soldiers were recorded in this video as well. Based on this video we have adjusted the map. As for the geolocations, the Russians sent in a very huge group of Russian FPV drone operators. Lots of Ukrainians, as you can see, are moving from one building to another. The Russians are flying above the territory of the city of Chasiv Yar and destroying everything everything they see. This is the final attempt. This is the final assault operation, and most likely after today, after the 12th, 30th, or the 40th of January, the Ukrainian defense and their possibilities to defend themselves will be breaking completely, and the Russians will finish the battle for the northern part. A lot of videos. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the city of Toretsk. Another day, another adjustments of the map. In this video that was published by the Ukrainian site, we can see how the Russian drone was flying above the most northern part of the city of Toretsk and was FPV droning. The Ukrainian drone was flying and was FPV droning the Russian units in this part. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map, and currently, as we can see, the Russian control around 99% of the city of Toretsk. Furthermore, when talking about the Ukrainian side, they control just the village of Dachne, they control just the village of Krymska, and they control just the mine of Toretsk Vugilya that is located in the most northern part of the city of Toretsk. So once again, we believe that by the time when the Trump's inauguration begins, the Toretsk agglomeration, or at least the city of Toretsk, would be captured completely. Furthermore, today we got another video from the southwestern part, another FPV drone attack from the Ukrainian side, confirming that the Russians continue improving their positions in this area as well. So we'll see very soon we'll hear a lot of very interesting updates from here in the very near future. Now let's talk about the situation in the Pokrovsk direction, and from this zoom, from this angle, we can see a lot of icons with flag, which means that the Russians, after a very long operational pause, also before the beginning of the Trump's inauguration, began their own offensive operation, and during the previous 24 hours the Russians managed to improve their position significantly. Now let's discuss step by step and in details. According to information we have, the Russians managed to take under control the village of Zelyone completely. As for pro-Ukrainian sources, they confirm some progress on the ground, but there are still some positions in the responsibilities of the 152nd Brigade, or the Brigade of 15th Operational Brigade Karadak, that remains under Ukrainian control, so just the central part along the Sadova Street. Now let's move further. Yesterday the Russian sources published the video how the battle for Shevchenko was taking place. In this video we can see lots of episodes of how the Russians were clearing the situation on the settlement, how the Russians were forcing the Ukrainians to fall back, and in the final part of the video we can see how the Russians were raising the flag above the school. We colored the territory of Shevchenko a long time ago based on the geolocations we got from the northern part of the settlement, but just yesterday the Minister of Defense confirmed this information. And the most important, that the sources and the military experts are saying that Shevchenko is a key town in the Pokrovsk direction, and now the military experts are waiting that this key town, this key flower, is going to start blooming. And now it's very difficult to understand where exactly the Ukrainians will be able to stop this blooming process. Most likely after the fall of Shevchenko, the Russians will fast lightning attack in the direction of Zverova, and they will finish the battle for the settlement of Pishane, and the Russians will start making attempts to enter the southern part of the city of Pokrovsk. And this is also very important, to enter the southern part of the city of Pokrovsk before Trump's inauguration. As for the northwestern flank, the Russians continue their offensive operation in the direction of three settlements: the village of Kotlina, the village or town of Udachne, and in the direction of the settlement of Molodetska. During the previous 24 hours, the sources reported that the Russians managed to enter the village of Kotlina from the south, and then the Russians were forced to fall back from these positions, back to the tree lines and the fortifications in the vicinity of Vovkova, and now the Russians are saying that this part of the settlement of Kotlina is in the gray zone. Furthermore, according to different mappers, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the southeastern direction of Udachne, so these facilities were captured by the Russians according to pro-Ukrainian sources and according to neutral mappers. The Russians are saying that there are still very heavy clashes for the territory of the village of Uspenovka. The Russians are trying to attack, but the Ukrainians from their side are trying to counterattack by sending more and more forces and reserves in this area. Furthermore, the Russians, according to different sources, continue advancing along this river in the direction of Novoalexandrovka. Currently, we don't know for sure where exactly the Russian forces, but the sources are saying that they are getting closer and closer to the settlement. So we expect expect that during the next 72 hours, both the village of Uspienovka and Novoalexandrovka would be, let's say, captured by the Russians, or at least the Russians would be able to answer both settlements. Now let's talk about the Dnipro direction. According to information we have, according to the information that was provided us by neutral and pro-Ukrainian sources, the village of Novoelizavetovka was captured and secured by the Russians. Currently, the Russians launched an offensive operation and trying to attack the settlement of Nadezhenka. There are very heavy clashes on this line. Furthermore, the Russians continue breaking through operation in the direction of Andreevka from many directions. The Russians improved their positions on the territory of the settlement of Yasenevo. Few more buildings were captured by the Russians. And furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians improved their positions towards the road TO515 that connects the settlement of Yasenevo and Andreevka fortified area. And according to reliable pro-Russian sources, as a result of offensive operation, the Russians managed to improve their positions to the west of the settlement of Shevchenka and to take under control this complex network of the fortifications and this stronghold, company stronghold, which means that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to answer the eastern outskirts of the settlement of Andreevka. This is the first, let's say, significant progress of the Russians, and the second one, the Russians established complete FPV and fire control over N50 road that will lead to complete collapse of Ukrainian defense in Dachne. So this is very important progress. Currently, we don't know for sure, we can't confirm this information whether the Russians indeed established complete control over this company stronghold. But if this information is correct, then we can start counting days when the settlement of Avdiivka falls. And if the settlement of Andreevka falls, this is the key, this is the heart of Andreevka fortified area, the entire South Donetsk direction will collapse automatically. Now let's talk about the settlement of Dachne. For some reason, the Ukrainians continue their defense operation in the settlement. As for now, there is no need to control this territory. Maybe the Ukrainians lost possibilities to evacuate their servicemen in the direction of Velyka, and this is the most likely situation, because during the previous 24 hours, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to establish complete control over the settlement of Yantarne. Today, the Russian sources published the video with 2 Russian soldiers that were moving, and that were 3 Russian soldiers that were bringing the flag of the unit that was securing the territory and the flag of the Russian Federation. Based on this video, most of the mappers have adjusted their maps in Russian favor, and we have colored the village of Yantarne as well. Now the Russians managed to answer the operational space, and I have no doubts that during the next 48 hours the Russians will try to attack through the fields with the purpose to attack the village of Velyka itself using these roads of attack. The situation for the Ukrainians in this pocket is coming to the end. Now let's discuss the situation in the Velyka Novosilka direction. The situation for the Ukrainians is very complicated. By the morning of the 12th of January of local time, the neutral mappers confirmed Russian control over the settlement of Niskuchne. As for the Russian sources, they are saying that there are still clearing operation, there are still some pockets of resistance of the armored force of Ukraine, and maybe this operation will take another 1 or 2 days. But other very reliable Russian sources reported that the first Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group managed to answer the village of Remivka itself, and currently there is a clashes on the southwestern outskirts and the southwestern part of the settlement of Remivka, which is already the beginning of the battle for Velyka Novosilka agglomeration from the southwest direction. If the Russians are able to improve their positions and to take under control the southwestern part of the settlement, then the Ukrainians will lose the last road for evacuation that goes along 0510 road through the fields in the northern directions towards the company stronghold that located in the vicinity of Privilne. So once again, the final battle, the final days of Velyka Novosilka has begun, and most likely before the Trump's inauguration, the village or the town would be captured completely. Furthermore, according to different mappers, pro-Ukrainian mappers, the Russians began advancing in the northeastern direction, and during the previous 24 hours, the Russians improved their position significantly, and the Russians are aiming to take under control the farms and the industrial complex in the northeastern part. So this is the situation by the end of the 11th of January. This is the situation by the beginning I'll remind you that yesterday the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions in the northeastern part of the Velyka Novosilka, of the city of the town of Velyka Novosilka. In this video we can see basically the process of the artillery preparation. The Russians were bombing and attacking the northeastern part of the settlement. The Russians were bombing the tree lines around the northeastern part, and after this heavy artillery preparation, as we can see, the Russians began offensive and managed to improve their position significantly. I believe that we can start counting days, obviously. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.